Welcome back to the Bookish Diaries. This week we have the incredible TJ Lundin with us. TJ focuses on writing portal fantasies, adventure fantasy, and always has a little bit of spice that she likes to add in there. So we're going to get down and dirty with her today. TJ, do you want to share just a little bit about yourself?
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so excited to be here. I am a piano teacher actually by day, and at night is when I get to write all these fun fantasy worlds filled with a lot of different paranormal creatures and a lot of apparently I like to do a lot of quests and stuff for like hidden artifacts so far. And there will always be a subplot at least of romance within my books. I really enjoy adding that. I am a dog mom. I have two dogs and they are my babies. And I'm married. I've been married for 15 years now, which feels like crazy to even think about that. But we are living in Colorado. And yeah, I'm kind of like a quirky girl who will probably always be singing because music has always been a part of my childhood and my background. And so if you want to envision how I am while I'm writing, I might be singing silly songs as like my characters are speaking through me. But
That's
that's just a
awesome.
little bit of me.
Okay, as someone who took piano lessons growing up, I'm so interested in
Yes.
your piano teaching. What kind of piano do you teach? Like what grade levels?
So basically, I start from like ages 5 or 6, and then I also
Okay.
have adult students. So, which are like people like you who used to take when they were kids and life gets in the way, but they want to be able to come back to piano. And it's really interesting to see how much they actually remember and retain when they do come back to it. But most of my students are kids. So I always say I have the great deal of being able to enjoy having kids and then being able to put them back to their parents.
There you go.
But like I really love like they tell me their whole lives stories of what's going on in their house and their friends and everything. So it's really fun being able to teach them. And yeah, we get down into the nitty-gritty of like the theory behind what they're learning with reading the notes.
Nice. That's so cool. That's awesome. I feel like if I had you as a piano teacher growing up, I would have enjoyed piano a lot more.
There's definitely a stigma of some teachers who are very strict, and like tapping you with like their little teaching stick, if you're getting something wrong. Like
Yeah,
I've heard it all. But yeah, I would like to think that I'm a cool teacher. Sort of. Yeah.
that's awesome. Oh man. So what got you into writing?
That's a really good question because it kind of just snuck up on me. I mean, growing up in grade school, when we would have different like creative writing assignments, I always enjoyed it, but I never, music. It was all about music for me. And I
Okay.
never, like, I did a little bit of reading, back then. And then I had developed a chronic illness, endometriosis, at a very young age, but it took so long for me to get that diagnosis. So reading then, I was doing no reading and I just
Okay.
couldn't, the brain fog of it, I just couldn't concentrate enough to read. And then there was a time where I had this dream, and that's exactly what my first debut book came from a dream. And I think it was because I got into watching Supernatural. Like I got
Okay.
obsessed with watching Supernatural. And so I kept having dreams about demons, and that was a little scary at first because I was like, wait a minute, I don't want to sign up for like the really bad demons, maybe the hot ones, but not the bad ones. But like the storyline of my Portal fantasy did come from a dream. I kept having like I dreamt the sequences of it a couple nights in a row. And that
Wow.
just I couldn't let go of that. I tried to write it gosh, when I first had the dream, so it was back has it been about 10 years ago now, 9 or 10 years ago. And I wrote, I don't know, maybe like 12, 15,000 words, not knowing anything about writing, right? I just needed to
Mm-hmm.
get the story out. And then I lost a whole bunch of like words in that process. And so I stopped. I was like, nope, this isn't for me, whatever. So then I wait 6, 7 years. Then I was like, I don't know, something in me. Oh, I know what it was. It was reading the Shatter Me series. Have you read that series? The
I haven't.
dystopian. It's a
I have.
YA. Yeah, Shatter
It's
Me
so
with
good. I love it. I love that series.
yeah, I got into that. I read that and I was like, oh my God, I binged those 6 books in 5 days. I was like just so tuned into I was like, I gotta figure out what happens. I just love the storytelling that she does. It's just like easy to digest sort of
Okay.
storytelling. And I really loved her style of that. Mafi, I guess is how you pronounce her last name. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. But so reading that series is what kind of like got me, okay, what if I tried to write that story that I had so many years ago? And I did that. I wrote, yeah, it was about 100,000 words was the book one. In 2 months, it was just pouring out of me. And I was like, okay, like I wrote a book, like now what? So I was just like I was part of Bookstagram at the time and, seeing a few other indie authors out there. But it was sort of a turning point actually for like indie authors for me. I had no idea that indie authors were online with their Bookstagram accounts and like selling their books that way. I just would go into a Barnes and Noble and think, oh, these are the authors, and that's it. Like I didn't have a Kindle at the time. I wasn't tuned in to Amazon at all with their books. So basically, yeah, it just started off as a dream, a fever dream in a way, and pure spite kind of like and motivation to finish writing it. And here I am almost 2.5 years later. I'm still writing stories.
So cool. And I love how, so does Kalina parallel you in other ways than the dream? So Kalina's the main character
Yeah,
in her series, and she starts by having dreams of
I
demons. So
dreamed.
it's so
Yeah.
cool that you like took that and made her do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty, when you're a new writer, it's really easy to insert yourself a little bit, or at least characteristics of yourself into your characters. And so there were times of like, yeah, there was different little parts of me that I saw myself as my main character, Kalina. And I kind of just was like, but I always saw like the beginning of this whole series arc, and then I always saw the ending. But like the middle was very
Okay.
murky, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get to that end. But you know what? That's part of my process so far is I wouldn't say I'm a huge plotter. I've become more of a plotter with writing, but like in the
Okay.
beginning, no, it was free. I was just like, okay, this is what she does here, and this is what happens next, and it does make it harder though for fantasy. I have learned some valuable lessons because there's a lot of different rules that you do have to keep track of and how the magic and stuff like that works. But
Mhm.
yeah, totally.
Very cool. So, one thing that you and I have connected on is that we were both raised in purity culture. And you have
Mm,
shared a little bit with me about how you have kind of stepped out of that and found healing through writing. Do you
yeah.
care to share, like, kind of about that?
Sure. I grew up, my dad is a pastor, so he was, growing up in a very conservative household too. So I was one of those people who wasn't allowed to watch Harry Potter.
Same.
Is that what you do? I had like, I had friends who would be talking about that, or like I wasn't even allowed to listen to the Backstreet Boys or NSYNC, and I would have to like sneak and listen to the songs at my friend's house, like things like that. So when it came to the purity culture aspect and what I was allowed to read, it was a lot of Christian fiction stuff, or like I definitely remember reading a lot of Ted Dekker, which I assume he's probably still writing, right? Did
I
you
haven't heard that name in so many
Ted
years. Yes.
Decker, remember? Yeah.
Monster. Yeah.
Yeah. Like just that those like Christian like thrillers, I guess you could say.
Hmm.
So like those were the only things I was allowed to read per se. When I got married super young. I was 21 and I married a military guy. So as soon as I got married, we were off into the middle of nowhere, Louisiana, and I'm from
Okay.
Florida. And so, you learn to grow, and I was like, well, I don't have these rules anymore. Like, why am I still holding on to them? Why don't I just go ahead and, like, I'm a married woman. I could do whatever I want, sort of thing. But it was always like ingrained in me, especially from what my father kind of believed, was like even romance books were not. I guess it was more about it was setting a bad expectation for like relationships and
Hmm.
reading any type of romance books. So I still had that in my brain of like, oh, romance, like whenever you read a romance book, it's not real. It's like fake. It's setting you up for like this fantasy, and I kept thinking that was bad. So it took a really long time for me to kind of just disentangle from what I was taught to what I have the choice to believe in different things. And I remember, I think the first like actual any type of spicy scene that I actually read, I want to say it was Crescent City from Sarah J. Maas, just like a couple
Okay.
of years ago. So that was my first like, and it's not super spicy by any means. Like I know some people really like to say that the romantasy genre is like, oh, it's just, a lot of spice. It's really
Hmm.
not. I don't believe it is. But it was so like when I read it the first time, I was like, oh, that's it? Like like it was like I guess it was built up so much, when you're like over 30 years of being like taught that it was so bad and like so sinful, like, and even if you're married, like you shouldn't be reading about that, like those type of explicit scenes. And I was just like, okay, that's that's not me, I can heal from this in my own terms, and a lot of therapy too, I will say. I've been going through therapy for this, as other things as well. But it wasn't until I started like picking up more of the super popular like From Blood and Ash series. Like I
Okay.
remember reading that and I was like, oh. And then I remember picking up my first White Shoes romance. And because I had no idea what that meant. But like I'm friends with all these people on Bookstagram, and that's what I loved about the Bookstagram book talk community, was like I was able to tap into who I authentically felt like who I was for the first time ever, and having that space and a safe space to communicate and like just talk about different romance books, and the vampires did this and the werewolves do that, like I don't know. It's such a freeing experience for me. And I just felt safe to be able to consume. And my husband wasn't complaining about it either. Like, he would say
Yes.
things, right. Like, I think he was a little skeptical if I started to, like, I'm the type of person, like, when I'm reading, I do tell him everything that happened in the book. And he's so sweet and he will listen to it. But, like, sometimes he's like, okay, this is getting too much. But like it was a way for me it just gives me a safe space to like understand, okay, like reading about sex and like, as an adult, it was just not super taboo like I guess I always thought it was, being
Hmm.
taught that. And it just gave me a safe space. So then when I started to write spice, like I started to consume a little bit more and more just to see, I felt like that was the safest way to kind of see, well, I don't know how to write spice, like what? Like
Right.
how do I do this? And just like I have a couple really good friends who are authors as well, and they're like, just do it for you. Like you don't have to like share it with anybody. Just see what happens like with the different characters that are in your head. And so that's what I did at first. And I was like, okay, this is just really fun. It's not a lot of pressure. It was just tapping into like talking to little Tiffany at the time and like saying, this is okay, like it's not wrong. It's like, and the whole narrative about like saying, clean romance and versus the dirty, like I learned more about that too. And I was like, trying to like gently tell other readers, like, it's not really dirty. We shouldn't be stuck in that like mindset. It's a natural thing. Like, we all do it. We're just reading about it in different styles. But yeah, I just feel like being able to write it was not only did it help me accept who I am, but like I've also had some sexual trauma happen to me when I was younger. So it was it gave me that freedom to kind of just heal myself from that too. So that's why I like reading it now and just being able to like let others do what they want with that. If they don't want to read it, that's fine. Like I don't care. But like it's fun for me. So and that's why I continue to like just to read it and write it. Sorry,
Thank
that
you
was
so
really
much for
long-winded.
sharing that with us. No, thank you so much for sharing. That's really cool because I know that you're not the only person that's in that situation and like working through these things and was raised that way. And so it is kind of hard to be like, wait, I'm adult. Am I allowed to read this now? Like I feel weird. And then you're like, wait, I like this.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I think there's a difference even between like erotica sort of genre and like seeing just spice in normal like romances too. Like obviously if it's your cup of tea, if you want to go either way, that's fine. But like I just feel that so many people are thinking that these romantasy genre is just filled with smut, and it's not. It's like shows character development, and it's really can be done in such a normal, we're human way. Like it just shows humanity another way.
Yeah.
It's crazy listening to you guys talk about so I grew up going to church, with my mom as a kid, but I was always allowed to read whatever I wanted, watch
Oh,
whatever I wanted.
really?
I never had, even the church never, so until Kate, I had never heard of purity culture prior
Wow.
prior to that.
Oh, man.
Um, and then actually because I was curious, so I did stop going to church for different reasons for a long time. I think I'm 40. The last time I went to church, I think I was 17, 18, I
Oh,
think.
okay. So it's been a while. Yeah.
It's been a long time. I did start going again with my kids, but I asked one of our pastors at the church about it and what he thought about it and stuff, and he was saying that he thinks that the purity culture is kind of toxic in that it pushes people away from the faith, and then he was saying that I know that churches have different beliefs, but he was like it's man-made and not anything from the Bible, I guess. And I only asked because I was curious because Kate said that, you guys were going to talk about it. And I was like, I got to find out more information about this because I never experienced that. Like, I never read Harry Potter until I was a little bit older, but my little sister, like she read it at 13, 14, and she like loved that series. But yeah, we were never like told to. So it's crazy to hear people talk about that they're like told, like that they're told that they can't read something or that reading it is bad. Because I did grow up going to church, but I did not have that experience at all.
Yeah.
And
it kind of makes me sad.
It is interesting because like I grew up going to a Christian school and was not allowed to read Harry Potter. But then I would come in after the weekend and hear all my friends talking about the midnight release that they went to at Barnes and Noble, and I'm just sitting there like, so fair. I want to be part of this. Like, why can't, like, they're Christian. Their parents don't think that reading them is going to turn them into a witch. Like,
Right,
come on.
right, exactly. And a lot of my friends too, like some of them were waiting to save their first kiss until their marriage day, like their wedding day. Like that's how
Goodness, who
conservative.
knows?
Yeah, so there's definitely a spectrum of where now, like my father, he wasn't like strict on stuff, but like there I had some friends on that far where they, saving their first kiss, and then other friends who obviously were not, and and I did go to a Christian school too, and there's still people who are getting into trouble in Christian schools and whatnot.
Yep.
I think I was in the middle, and I think I was just trying to be the good girl and just not, bother trying to get into anything that I shouldn't. But at the same time, it's just it can be a very controlling sort of thing. I actually had a reader who read my first two books of the Angel Fantasy series of mine, and she kind of got told on by somebody from her church who saw that she had posted my books and that she really liked them, and that and she was part of a Pentecostal faith, and she felt like very then conflicted because this person saw her account on Bookstagram and was like went and told their pastor about
Wow.
reading. So she had privately messaged me saying, I don't think I'm allowed to continue on. Like, I love to support you, but I'm going to do it like more like anonymously sort of thing. And I felt so bad because it's just that controlling factor that and I'm not saying like every church is like that at all. This is a
For
very
sure.
personal thing, right? It's just some churches or organizations or, whatever you want to call, some faiths are going to be more controlling than others, I had found. And so I just was like, at first when she told me this, I was like, are you okay? Like that's an attack on you in a way that shouldn't happen, I feel like. And she's like, yeah, I'm okay. Like it is what it is sort of feeling. But yeah, it was just really shocking for me to hear that, because I know my book is about angels and demons. And my parents did ask me at first, they're like, is it biblical? And even my sister-in-law was there to back me up. And she's like, she said, it's fiction, right?
Thank goodness we're sisters.
Right. And I know at first when I was writing it. So I actually have a Bible degree. I went to Bible college for 4 years. So I have a music degree and a biblical studies degree. And so I could have written this in a much more biblical sense and gotten it and like more into the Greek and shown X, Y, and Z and like kind of just had elements of fiction in it. But I decided that wasn't the story I wanted to tell, right? That was still kind of like confining me into a box, it felt like. But that thought did cross my mind because I have the knowledge to be able to kind of like really, show that, there's angelology for a reason and demonology and stuff. So, yeah, I've had that talk. My mom has read my book 1 and that's it so far.
Okay. Did she have a review or did she like say anything about it?
She liked it. She said she enjoyed it, and she's very proud of me. So that was it. That's all that I needed to hear, because it's hard to go into something like self-publishing without that support. And at first I wasn't getting that support from them, and I like hardly any of my family members actually were involved at all, actually. So it was nice to hear that she did end up buying the book and reading it. Like, I wasn't expecting it at all. So it was it was a surprise, and she's proud, and she said she's proud of me. And my in-laws they're even more supportive, which was surprising. And they bought my super spicy book even. So I was like,
did they read it?
I don't know if they've read it yet, but they
Okay.
backed the Kickstarter, and I was
That's so
tempted
cool.
to go and like redact like all of the scenes for their
Permanent
copy.
marker.
And I even had to, I had to ask, well, do you want the spicy print, which is when they're naked, or do you want this? And he wanted the spicy print. It's
Yes,
like,
for the in-laws.
I know. I was like, okay, well, they know everything now. But yeah, to just go back to, it depends within the like different church communities. I know there's a lot of churches who don't care at all, like, about what you read and what you're consuming and whatnot. But yeah.
So as you've grown in like your writing and moving away from purity culture and stuff, how has your relationship with themes like love, desire, or agency evolved through your writing process?
Ooh. That's a good question. I think when I first started to write more, so when I wrote Among the Cursed Gods, which is the spicy treasure hunting adventure romance novel, I cut, yeah, I I had no qualms, and I just let it fly. So I think it surprised a couple of my readers compared to the first two books that I wrote for the other series. But I kind of sat with it, and I realized that it's okay. I know some authors have pen names for a reason, to be able to write like different genres and keep things kind of separate. But I realized when I just had actually a book signing not too long ago, it was a way for me to just actually gain a wider audience, to be like, if you want like low spice but fantasy with high stakes, then this is the series for you. If you would rather have high spice with still like lovable characters and a lot of adventure, this book is for you. And it really was able to help me find, I feel like it's a good way for me at least to find a different set of readers in this space. And as soon as I like just said it that way, they're like, that one, like it's just easier
Yeah.
for them to make that decision, to be like, oh, that's exactly what I like to read, or this is exactly what I like to read. So I feel like even though I kind of just let myself go and write all like 3-4 different scenes in that one book, I was thinking, am I going to do this for every book? And I realized, no, I think it just depends on the story.
Mm-hmm.
But as I keep getting better with my craft, like I'm still actively, trying to get better and better with writing, I think I'll be able to like just hone in on that skill and be able to still have that love and that angst and that romance, but like I can just like have a different filter on it, and be able to
Yeah.
shine it in a different way, and still be able to make the readers happy. I know I keep seeing people on threads saying like they're tired of people asking, well, is it spicy? Is it spicy? Like thinking that that's what makes a book good. And I don't view it that right. I don't view it that way. Like it's spice. I know some people really do. Like it has to be really spicy, I guess, maybe for them to enjoy it. But that's just what they like, and that's fine. But I definitely have read so many stories where it's not centered around that spice, right? And yet it's
Mm-hmm.
still so engaging, and you feel all their emotions surrounding what's happening to them. So I feel like as I continue right now, I'm just going to be able to like mature, I think, and be able to find like my style and just that like comfort and like sweet spot of how I want to continue with writing.
Very cool.
Um, so when you write romance now, how consciously are you reclaiming narratives that were once used to control or shame you?
Ooh, That's a good question. I definitely, so the first thing that popped in my head was the thought of showing how you can seek pleasure by yourself, even. So that would be like something I was taught that's wrong and bad and sinful or whatever, right? But I've seen in other books when they have certain scenes like that, when they're just by themselves, I think that's so empowering, and it shows just another level of just reclaiming that for yourself and knowing that I don't need somebody else to find that pleasure or whatever. And like you have everything within you to, to make you happy and to make you feel fulfilled. So I feel like that's just one example of how I could see that I would like to shift the narrative and be able to like show that as well, because I feel like that would be just something that I have been able to heal within myself, and to be able to share that. Another thing that I did show in Among the Cursed Gods was how I just showed a little bit of a glimpse of how she actually was married before, and she was married very young. So there's a little bit of like how I did put myself in that. And I wanted to show a story where there is an older character, an older female character who has had another life before, right? And so I wanted to show a little bit of how the person she was with before was a little bit more controlling and didn't want her to act a certain way within the bedroom, right? But like she's able to, every time she's been with the MMC, the male main character of this book, how he doesn't like control her in that way. And so I kind of showed that arc a little bit within that book, to be like, hey, we can come from this space of being where we felt like we were broken, or where we felt like we were not allowed to do this, and we can grow from that, and with the right person too. I feel like that's another thing to show, is that it really can be dependent on, hey, you could be so fulfilled with the right person, and how they just let you shine and give that control back to you. So I would say that's what I'm hoping to be able to do. And I know I'm still growing in life. I'm still having different life experiences, so I'm sure the next book will like just have another little piece of me that's growing from something else that I'll just throw in there. Because I just, carry this trauma, and I'll eventually process it.
I love
Well, and
when
I
you
think
put that in there in your books, like listening to you talk about it. I'm like, I love that you put like little snippets of like real life experiences in it. That's amazing.
Thank you.
and I feel like you did such a great job with it, like questioning it and like
Mm,
wondering, like, am I doing an okay thing? And like she's like struggling with it in her head, and then she like and like you can see her growth throughout the book. It's really cool.
thank you. Yeah, I know it was like one of those things. It's not considered a white, I don't consider a white shoes, but like since she does sleep with two different men, I knew that could be a problem. I actually had a beta reader who doesn't read any white shoes because she doesn't really like it. And so I wanted to get her input on that. Like, do you think I need to like be that a trigger warning sort of thing, or a content warning and I ended up I think I did say that she does sleep with two different characters or something like that. I don't know how I worded it. But yeah, it's one of those things of like, some people are a little hesitant to read about having multiple experiences. But to me, I was able, at least when I was writing it, I wanted to show that each experience that she did have in the book was just her being able to finally trust in herself and let go a little bit each more and more. So,
Well, you did a
I
great job showing it.
I guess am I confused with why choose? Because to me, why choose is like they're with two people like at the like they're not choosing like, oh, I'm gonna end up being with this person. They're like, I'm gonna be with both.
You're
To me,
right.
that would be like
Yeah.
why choose, not like,
I
okay,
just had I had my character, she does choose one guy over the other. So that's why I was like, I don't want to call it a why choose, because I knew there's certain parameters to hit, and I know the most why chooses is like when they're all together, like, and they're all happy because they're making her happy. So that's why I was like, oh, I want to stay away from. I know like saying why choose is a very like hot keyword to use for marketing and whatnot, but I was like, well, I don't want like the readers to like expect she's, not. Yeah, she does kind of choose at the end.
How has your audience responded, especially readers who have also experienced religious trauma and purity culture?
Oh, I feel like I I think it's been positive for the most part. Uh, I think I've run into more other authors who are in the same place as me about how they
okay.
struggled with purity culture. I haven't had many readers reach out to me saying like, "Oh, this really like hit the nail on the head for me because of XYZ." It's been actually more other authors that I've been able to behind the scenes talk about different things, and they're like, "Oh, I'm so excited that you wrote this book because I know exactly what you went through, and I, had the had to deal with purity culture as well." So it's very interesting. I can like think of like 4 or 5 different authors at the top of my head actually that had talked to me like privately, and we've discussed how, and that's not even including you, Kate.
Yeah,
Like it was just a lot of people, like,
that
and
is a lot.
yeah, it's very eye-opening to see that. Um, because I feel like I was lucky enough to kind of, when I joined Bookstagram, I joined a very inclusive space. Like most of the people that I surrounded myself are very inclusive,
Hmm.
with LGBTQ and stuff like that. So I felt like most of the readers were like, yeah, give me all the spice sort of thing.
Yeah,
And it was actually harder for me to market my first 2 books because they don't have hardly any spice in those. So that was another reason. It was a good reason for me to like branch out and just try and see what would happen. And I feel like I've been able to, you know, open arms with most of the people I've met
that's
with
so
with
great.
writing that. Yeah.
Um, I lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry. Um, what conversations do you hope your book spark about the intersection of faith, sexuality, and fantasy?
Ooh. I want well, the first thing is I want my books to be entertaining. I want them to be, a place where they can escape. Um, and then surrounding the faith aspect, I'm thinking more. I'm thinking more along the lines of the angel fantasy, since it does have the angels and demons sort of, kind of like Christian themes, but not really. They're, let's be honest. And like I would say the main theme for that series is questioning those who are in charge. Um, that was, I definitely showed my faith deconstruction while writing this series. I feel like that's evident if you have any knowledge of Christianity at all. I don't think most of my readers have that knowledge. So I feel like I've been able to kind of make it where they're not seeing those themes as much as somebody like me who grew up in the church and has, just questioned things and questioned how people should be living their lives. So I feel like I did a good balance. I've had an email or two during the ARC stages that said, I'm sorry, I cannot continue because it's so close to Christian. They didn't say Christian themes, but beliefs is what they said. And I respect them for letting me know that. That's not an easy thing to decide to let an author know. So I know if you have a lot of different knowledge of what you have been taught, maybe in Bible school or something, or church, then you might kind of see different allegories and be like, I don't know about this. But for me, it was more about just believing what you want to believe, like, thinking for yourself and not blindly leading and believing in something that's been taught down to you for so long. So I think that's just the main theme I would say for that book, and for any other romance books that I will write in the future. I just want it to be to give that human and personal experience that you'll be able to feel like, oh yeah, I've been there when I felt like I wasn't good enough, or if I felt like I was holding so and so back, because like that's my experience with my endometriosis, my chronic illness. Like for the longest time, I felt like I was broken, like I couldn't give all of myself in ways because I was in pain so much and I wasn't able to do X, Y, and Z. And I felt like I was holding my husband back because, we're not able to go out and do X, Y, and Z. And I was able to write more. It's basically writing to myself, like, you're not broken and you are valued and you're worthy. And, just being able to be comfortable within yourself. So I guess those are some of the themes I would say that I think about. And it's definitely, writing is definitely still very personal. I try to separate, different things, and, different stories are going to be a lot more different than what I've experienced. But yeah, there's definitely going to be different parts of me that I'm going to write about, because it's just a way I feel like it is me processing everything that has happened and like giving me that grace and that like I said, that inner child that like, you're okay, you're safe, like what
Yeah.
you've experienced is okay. It was hard, but you got through it. And that's what I love about reading different books. Like when that main character goes through all the trials and you're like, oh my gosh, are they going to get through this? And for the most part, they will. It might really hurt and they might lose a lot in that process, but like it's that hope of like getting to the end and being like, if they can get through it, then I can get through it, sort of feeling.
Yeah, and I feel like you really dug into that in book 2 of the Angel series.
Mm-hmm.
A lot.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us today. Can I ask, like, what's next for you? How can we best support you as readers, and like, where can we find your books?
Sure. So I've got a lot of different projects kind of like up in the air right now. I'm trying to think of which one would be actually coming out next. I would say probably the Angel Fantasy Series one. We're going to go to the villain, and it's a villain origin story. So it's kind of like a prequel. And so I am trying to like get that finished, hopefully soon. I don't know. I've been so burnt out, and you're going to hear this from so many different other authors. It's just like there's this push and this drive to get and write so much to be able to publish so quickly. And so I'm just like, after my 4th book, which was my little ghost rom-com story, I was like, okay, That's it. I just need to relax for a few
Yeah.
months, take a break and whatnot. And that's what I've been really enjoying and doing that. But in order to support, I mean, like just supporting fellow authors by like liking their posts on social media is just enough to be able to like boost us in the algorithm, because I think that's the hardest part about being an author is just there are so many options, right? There's so many books on Amazon, at the bookstores, and it's just really hard to be seen. So if you're just able to like, if you follow different authors, just like their posts and possibly share them. Especially if you like see what they're writing might fit, like, oh, I have a friend that would probably like that, just being able to
Yeah.
share that just like really helps out. Um, so I would say that would be super helpful. And yeah, I would say the Angel Fantasy series book is coming up next, but I have this sort of like, oh, I really want to say what it's like, but I kind of want to keep it a secret. But it's like 1880s sort of Chicago historical setting. I'm also working on a project that has that. And it's
Very
paranormal.
cool.
I'll say it's paranormal. So, but I
You
can't say
heard it
anything
first
else.
here.
I can't say anything else because it would just be like giving too much away.
For sure. Oh man, that's so awesome. So your books are on Kindle Unlimited, and then if you want
Yeah,
to buy signed copies, TJ does have her own website. We will link it below, and then you could find
yeah.
it on her Instagram as well. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
Listeners,
you.
if you could like, subscribe, share the podcast, that helps us and it helps TJ. So yeah, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.